maybe I'm not fully prepared. Maybe I'm not fully confident, but I need to go out there and do those things that some people don't have an opportunity to do, if that's what I desire to do.
This podcast encourages and empowers you to create your own unique real story, develop your own unique real statement, and discover your own unique real self. The power is yours. Good afternoon, Ahyiana Angel. Previously, episode 1353 of the 12-Minute Convos podcast. It's been just 2 years, 3 months, 2 days, 23 hours since we last had that recorded conversation. That was then. This is now. Ahyiana, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Wow, that feels like so long ago, yet really not that long ago when you break it down like that.
Yeah, it does. Well, hey, one of the things I remember from our conversation is, yes, you have the gift of gab, but really 10x level, because your sentences contained an average of 40 to 1,000 words, and yet you said it in one breath.
Wow.
So, I mean, the podcast switch, pivot, or quit was at the point, the focus. What's going on? Please tell me how things have evolved.
Sure. So since starting Switch Pivot or Quit, I have now developed Mayzie Media, which is a podcasting network that specifically caters content created for and by women of color. And the part of the reason that I created that was just recognizing that in the space of podcasting, number one, showing up as a woman was something that wasn't at the top of the charts and widely recognized, I guess you could say, especially when a few years ago when we spoke and when I first started having the idea for Mayzie Media, and also being a woman of color, I just felt like our stories and the way that we would share our stories and just the representation, it wasn't there like I thought it could be. And you're stronger when you're together and when you're led by a driving force and when somebody can sort of help curate the information a little bit more. So I created Mayzie Media, and that's what I've been doing for this past year. And we have some awesome shows that are on the Mayzie Media platform, some that deal with, as you mentioned, loss and grief, Destination Heal, some that deal with parenting in the Black community, parenting decolonized, and we just had and some that deal with just being a boss woman, the Boss So Hard podcast. So we have a little bit of a variety and something for what a lot of the modern day women would be going through and experiencing, and we try to speak to those things.
And what about Work It? You didn't even mention Work It as well.
Oh, Work It. Yeah. So that was an awesome experience. I had an opportunity to go to the Work It Festival. And if you don't know what that is, that's the biggest podcasting conference for women. And that was in LA. And they asked me to be a speaker. And I spoke and presented on the topic of quit playing small, which I wrote a book by the same name since we last spoke. Yeah.
Wow.
So I guess there has kind of been a lot going on.
Yeah,
But
you've
Work
done
It
a
was
ton.
awesome.
Well, that's great. That's absolutely amazing. Wow. How does it feel when you look back from leaving that big job, right, to follow your dream? How does it make you feel today?
You know, it makes me feel like I still don't have it all figured out, but I need to be appreciative of myself for the things that I have been able to do. And I'm grateful for all the experiences and opportunities that I've had. It's just one of those things where you set out to do one thing and then it evolves into other things, and you sort of still never really know where your journey is going to take you. But I guess it's important to be present along the journey so you kind of can take in all the things. And with you asking this question, it's making me really realize, like, wow, there has been a lot that's transpired, you know. But I feel grateful. I feel excited about what's next because I know that there's other things that I'm planning on doing that will be very impactful in my future. So I'm excited and I'm grateful.
Yeah, I think the with age comes wisdom
Mm-hmm.
really fits in right there, because even the way we speak, right? It's like, all right, I can do everything I speak about. And now, because you know that, and of course, the pain it took,
Mm-hmm.
I don't speak as much
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I put myself in that place. Again, with age comes wisdom. Unfortunately, with wisdom doesn't come age because it would be good to get like 20 years, right? With the
Mm-hmm.
knowledge that we had. You have continued on your path. You've not given up. And that's one of the strengths that I believe has come from you being able, in your earliest childhood memory, sharing with us, setting fires without matches. Because you set you
Yes.
set this fire in your grandmom's living room
Mm-hmm.
without by putting the paper there. Have you
Mm-hmm.
seen that echoed through your life though, most recently, where you're doing things that people are saying would be impossible, yet you're setting the fire?
Mm. That's a really good question. And I feel like, yes, I want to say yes, I am. But it probably doesn't show up in such a dramatic way. Um, I would say that I think it's more a result of me having sort of this no fear behind having the conversations that maybe some people would shy away from.
Hmm.
And so, with doing that, that allows me to show up in a way that maybe other people aren't showing up. And that then opens doors that maybe somebody else thought wouldn't be open for me, for themselves, whatever it is. Even like me showing up at the Work It Festival, that's not something that I thought I would be doing the year prior. The year prior, to be honest with you, I had just found out about it.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, this is cool. And it crossed my mind that maybe I could speak there, but not in the capacity that they invited me to speak. I thought maybe I'd be a panelist or something like that, but they asked me to give an entire 45-minute, basically like an address, like a keynote, like a workshop, a session, all by myself. And I was like, wow, I wanted to come here and have a representation, but geez, I didn't know that it would show up like that. And I think that's just a result of me being fearless with starting those fires and having those conversations that, maybe other people would shy away from. So I think sometimes it doesn't show up as dramatic, but it still shows up and it's
How
still
much
something to
more
embrace.
dramatic do you want to get than being invited to the 45-minute conversation keynote than not expecting to? I'm just saying,
You're right. You're
it
right.
is
You're
pretty
right.
dramatic. And I think it comes back to that voice. And it's intriguing because there was a voice that pushed you on, that inner voice that pushed you on, if it
Mhm.
was the inner voice, whatever voice that pushed you
Mhm.
on to make moves, right? And
Right.
of course, everyone looked at you and said, all right, like, who's she listening to? What is she doing?
Mhm.
Nevertheless, how do you continue to listen to that voice, Ahyiana? Because there's so many other voices, but how do you tune into that voice that got you to where you are today?
You know what? I think it's more about just taking immediate action. Because sometimes when you hear that voice or when you hear any voice, right, we sit on it, we question it, we give it some time. And what I've realized about myself, especially in speaking with peers who want to either do similar things or just want to create something for themselves, there is a common thread where people do not move fast.
Hmm.
And sometimes moving fast can hinder you because it can throw a monkey wrench in your plan or things don't go according to plan, and you feel like, oh gosh, is this a failure? But sometimes it could be the best thing that you do because you get out in front of any second guessing that's going to happen. You get out in front of any questioning from other people. Sometimes you even get out in front of trends. And that ends up serving you well. Sometimes it doesn't look the way that you thought it was going to look, but it ends up serving you well. So I think that's how I get ahead with listening to that inner voice, and how I sort of tap in is because I just go right then and there. I don't wait too long. I usually do something that's pushing me in that direction, whether it be saying yes to something that's in alignment with the idea of what I know I want to be doing, because you can't say yes to everything,
Hmm.
or it's buying a domain name, it's creating an account, it's reaching out for a conversation, it's reaching out to tell somebody that, hey, I'm planning on doing this, and I want you to be a part of it, or it's getting the ball rolling in some way. And I think that's sort of how I've maintained, is just actually taking some action, because for some of us, that's the hardest thing to do.
There's a reality check within our experiences, the time container of life and death. How do you interact with that conversation? Is it something in the forefront or the back shelf of your mind that it is possible that you can die, could die today or tomorrow?
I think that is a deep question, because as you get older, as you mentioned before, you get wiser, but you also start to experience more. And within these past 2 years since we last spoke, I experienced death like up close and personal. My grandfather passed away, and I helped to take care of him significantly up until his last breath. And it wasn't even a breath. That's one thing that people don't know. It was more like a gurgle. And I hate to say that because it's so real, but just seeing that, experiencing that, seeing his body deteriorate. And although he was 89 years old, so he lived a long, good life, it's just still watching life fade away is a reality check, in terms of we are not going to be here forever. And just in having friends being diagnosed with cancer and just illnesses and things, it lets you don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next for you. Everything could be okay one day, and the next day you get some shocking reality. Now, that doesn't mean that you should live in fear of what may happen, but that means that you should live in inspiration of other people's lives, people who have been touched, people who have touched you, people who don't have the opportunities that you have to do the things that you are able to do. So it's like, all right, maybe I'm not fully prepared. Maybe I'm not fully confident, but I need to go out there and do those things that some people don't have an opportunity to do, if that's what I desire to do. And so that has given me a lot of perspective in terms of, I don't have forever. So what am I going to do with the time that I actually have?
Well, my friend, it is such a grand opportunity to call in and hear that you've not given up and how things have evolved. It is both motivational and absolutely inspirational for those that are listening. Thank you for your service to humanity. In closing, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Just head over to MayzieMedia.com, MAYZIE media.com, and check out more from the podcast. Thank you so much.
Love it. Love it. A pleasure. I treasure. Ahyiana Angel, thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. This podcast is produced by Pod Edits. Visit podedits.com for professional podcast publishing.